Hey guys, what's up? It's coming back to ya with another episode of Car Rides with and surprise, surprise, things didn't really pan out the way I wanted to. This weekend there was a lot of things that I wanted to do, and I just didn't it just didn't plan out that way. It's like another classic example of you get used to these things, or like you think things, you have a certain plan of how things are going to go, and then that just doesn't end up materializing. And so it's a shame. Like, you really plan hard for stuff, but I just I don't like it. I don't know, that's just how it turns out, and happens a lot. I mean, obviously they say, as they say, that's life, as they say. But for whatever reason, I don't know. I guess I feel fairly affected. More sensitive to that kind of stuff than most people. So, yeah. But we made it a little bit later than I wanted to be getting out the door, but what else is new? Kind of rough waking up. I don't know. Let's check how I slept, because I don't think it was that bad. Yeah, I got a 85. And it actually looks really good. Yeah, I got a lot of REM, so I slept pretty well, but for some reason, it just wasn't. Yeah, I don't know, just wasn't, I just wasn't personally feeling well. Now, I wasn't going to have anything to talk about. I wasn't. But I had this flurry of thoughts recently about my usual thing, about how, there's, in the winter, it's a lot more work to go to work. You have to scrape the ice off your car. It's much colder, which is definitely, just worse. And yeah, it takes longer, and it's darker out too. That's the other thing. So what I think is frustrating is that, we get paid the same amount despite the work it's harder. It's harder to It's more difficult. It's more difficult to go to work, and yet you're paid exactly the same wage. You're also losing more gasoline to drive in with the defrost on. Uses a lot more gasoline than when the weather is not like that. And I just don't really like that culture that it's like, oh well, that's life. Oh well, I mean, what can you do about that? It's not like it would be fair to have a little bit higher compensation, for you to come in the middle of the snow versus on like a bright, nice, sunny day. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think so. I think so. And the other thing that gets me is, what's crazy about it all is that if you're wealthy, you don't even have to deal with it. So there's this inversion of things, right? A lot of the very expensive cars now, well, I don't know, just the luxury cars. Some of them have direct heated glass, which is obviously pretty nice. because glass that is directly heated, it's going to heat up much faster and more efficiently, you know, because it's not air hitting the glass. It's just directly hitting it. You know, the heat, I'm sorry, what? It's not hitting anything. It's like directly there. Like the glass just heats up, so it's probably very fast and very efficient at melting the ice off. Very quick. But here's the thing. If you're rich and you're able to afford one of those cars, you don't even need that feature, because I'm sure it's most likely that if you're wealthy enough to afford a car like that, it's most likely you have the car garage kept anyway, because you probably have a house, you probably have a garage to put the car in, and so that doesn't really make any sense, because really it's like the probably 70% of the rest of the population that could really use that feature. And so it's inverted. You know, like everybody who's garage kept, they don't even need it. And so it's probably likely that it gets very little use, if none at all, that specific feature of the superior defrosting windows, because of, reasons, you know, I don't really have to I already explained it. It's like, there may be very minor cases where maybe you're driving and it just starts snowing out of nowhere, and then, you know, that's obviously, I'm sure a rich person would be happy and grateful to have that extra feature in that case. But I'm talking about day to day, every day. Every single day, day to day. You know, there's that problem. Isn't that weird? Like, I feel like that's weird. I don't know. I just think it's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up as something that makes sense. Not to mention, you know, the all-wheel drive thing, with how, you know, an all-wheel drive car, more expensive, but in some cases it's a safety risk and a safety issue, because you have to get to work in the snow, and, you know, poor people can't afford to, or they would be less, like, it would be more of a bite, whereas like a rich person, they could easily afford all-wheel drive cars, but then it's likely that they could afford or just take time off anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was too snowy, they would be the ones that, if they only had a front-wheel drive car, or a car that's not good in the snow, they would be the ones to be able to call out. So it's another, like, inversion where there's, like, this compounding advantage that occurs as you move up, and that's not really conducive to a better society, because you're just giving extra reward to people who don't. It's not even that they don't deserve it or they don't need it. It's just, it's not as efficient. It's just not. You know, like a lot of these things, like, it is just less conducive to society, because if you broadened the pool of people who can do these things, if you make it so there's more opportunity for more people, it increases the chance of, you know, remarkable people really getting into the game and doing something good. The more people you have with potential and opportunity, the better. But the way things are set up with materially, you have to create a society that fixes many of those judgment, many of those inequities, because again, in fixing and doing so, you do create a superior society. You do create a superior humanity. I feel like maybe the counter argument is maybe it's not as important for a lower wage worker to make it to work on time. I guess that is kind of fair, because usually it's like if the manager's out, that's a much bigger issue than if the worker is out. So there's that. And so, but overall, I always noticed this stuff. I mean, I noticed it from a very young age, and I think I've mentioned this before, and it's one of my most persistent memories that, I would have thought of this way back. I mean, I don't even think I understood, like, any type of philosophy or political theory or any of that kind of stuff back then. But when I was playing Pokemon, I guess it was Diamond and Pearl, maybe Platinum, I'm not sure. And it's hard to say how old I was, but I want to say I could have been around 8 years old, maybe a little older, maybe a little younger. Tough to say. It's tough to say. I don't have a perfect memory of when this occurred, sadly, because I think I've explained before. My memory, it's not... Sadly, I don't have, like, a super perfect memory. It's very good, but it's like, it's not... I can't always get things, like, extremely precise. But anyways... It was this, I realized and this really applies for any game, this really applies for any video game. When you, as a player who is potentially more advanced, if you're more thinking, if you're more putting more effort into the game, you obviously get slightly rewarded for that. You find... Maybe you go into this extra area that's optional and you find, like, extra items. And it's like, that's helpful. It's helpful to have extra items. It could get you into a situation where it's like a make or break. Like, you might lose a battle. You might lose an important battle, but because you had went to an extra area to pick up an extra thing, now it's like you don't. Now you don't end up losing the battle. And the thing that always got me is, like, if you're not a good player, you would need that extra item. You would need it. But if you're a good player, chances are the type of player that is going to go out of his or her way to find the better item. You're not going to need the better item because you're probably smarter. You're probably not even, you're probably not going to need the item. And so it's this weird situation that presents itself where you're rewarding somebody for effort, and yet it doesn't really make that much sense, does it? Because why? Like, they don't really need a reward. Like, they're already fine. They're already doing fine. So why would you need to reward somebody who is doing fine? But see, the world, it isn't set up for that. It's just not set up for that. But I thought of this at such a young age. I was like, well, the person who's good at the game and who finds the item isn't even going to need to use it. And then especially when you get into hidden items and how, you know, obviously, like, a not good player is not going to figure out hidden items. It's like, and so you think about these things, and you see the way the world is materially, and it rewards those who don't need to be rewarded. So is this God's puzzle for us to solve? That's kind of what I think. Like, he gives us this ravenous world that doesn't really make sense, and then we see now that we have the ability to develop and try to create a society or a system that solves a lot of these carnal, flesh-like issues, and yet we choose not to now. Now it's like, we did for a while, had a good run, and then now we're going to erode these systems that have made it so that there's a broader equality. We're able to do something that no other animal can. No other animal can really conceive of, which is what I said. It's broadening the selection, for humans. And again, by making things make more sense, you have a higher chance of people who could be a good fit for a certain thing. What's happening now is there's a smaller and smaller cohort to choose from because it's mostly just people who are wealthy. And it's not even necessarily the case that wealthier people are more capable. In some ways, they may not be, because their lives are relatively easier, and they probably wouldn't need to think as critically. If somebody grows up in the middle class and they have to be comprehending a lot of this materialistic struggle and plight that people have to go through, then you grow as a person from that. If you're rich and you're always taken care of, and you have this like massive home and all, like, you're not, as a person, there's not much character to that. There's not much soul. There might be character, but there's not as much soul. And there could be certain circumstances where, certain people, they probably should maybe have more space or something, but it's to a point. It's to a point where, past a certain point, the cognitive benefits and the material benefits for like having a bigger, fancier house, they fall off. And now you're just spending in excess to be like, it just becomes not worth it. It becomes not worth it. But of course, none of the people in these situations ever really think like that and ever really think about it. Now, tying this into this other thing I want to talk about, which I'm open to it being my issue, but I just want to try to get like a dialogue going about it, because it's a very complicated conversation. Obviously many people just tell me, oh, you should just get a better job. Oh, you should just, you should probably go to school to get a better job. Are these people like, are they on the same planet? Are they living at the same time period? Am I just more aware than they are? I mean, the data is showing very clearly there are many people now. Sorry, not there is. At least I think there are. I don't know which one's correct. Whatever. There are many people now who they go to college and they get a very nice degree, and then they can't get a job for it. And this has been happening more and more very much exponentially over the past couple years. And so it's very risky. It's incredibly risky to get a degree, even though I think I have presented my prowess through this show that if I was to get a degree, I would be very interested in language or public speaking, some kind of, even counseling. Those are kind of my ideas of things I'd want to be. Maybe a teacher. That's like another, just being able to explain things in different ways. Probably a higher grade teacher, because I think the lower level, I just don't know that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think a higher age group teacher, like, I just don't know that I really have much to offer to like kids. I kind of, I don't know. They're like difficult to talk to. Sorry, this guy was just like being weird. Like, he could have went for it and he just like didn't. And then now he's driving like kind of crazy. I don't know why. Because now he's like speeding, but he wasn't speeding when he could have merged in front of me. Maybe some people just like to drive kind of haphazard. But anyways, yeah, and so it's this big problem with the system the way it's set up right now. It is. It's a huge problem. Because how can you have a society where people get into significant amounts of debt only to graduate and then not even be able to figure out or use the degree that they had gotten? Like, how is that going to work long term? There's something wrong there. I mean, you can't. And I guess you could say, just chalk it up to personal choice, but I don't know that really makes that much sense either, because a lot of times, people aren't really educated as to like what majors they should or shouldn't take. America's very much like, oh well, you can just take what you want. That's kind of like how it's presented to us. But of course, like, I would think about, well, what major makes the most sense? What is the most in demand? And I would think like that, but I think a lot of people don't. And then also there's certain skill sets. Like, I know what my skill set is, and it's not, I don't know, I just know it's language. I know it's communication, it's speaking. Like, this is what I'm wired to do. If I'm not good enough at this, or if my speaking's too weird or whatever, then I don't know what I'm going to do in life, because this is like my one thing, I don't think I have like any particularly better skill. I could have things that are better than average, but I'm saying like speaking is my most efficient output easily. Again, like, it's not particularly close. So people casually say these things about going to school or like getting a better job, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I just said earlier, like, are these people living in the 1900s? I'm grateful just to have a job at all. young people unemployment is very high. There are a lot of young people who aren't working and can't even find work. And it's like a serious problem. So while I'm over here just grateful to just have anything at all, just to have money coming in, a job I can tolerate. I mean, that's rare. That's rare in this day and age. And you have people like trying to give me advice like, oh, just go to school. Oh, you should just move up at your company. Oh, yeah, you really should. You really should have the. And it's like, oh, really? Do you guys know how the world works? Like, I feel like there's still people where if you ask them for advice, they would just say, oh, well, if you need to make more money, you should go to school to make more money. And you should just you should just apply for a better paying job and like you're just gonna get it. Like I'm just gonna end up getting it. What? Do you know how many people compared to me want or need a much higher paying job than what I have? Like I can get by. I can definitely get by with a lower amount of money, but there are some people who like they're very inefficient. Their executive function, it's probably incredibly poor. I mean, I kind of complain about my executive function sometimes, but at the end of the day, when it comes to day-to-day functioning, it's like I cook all my food at the beginning of every week. I'm very organized. I probably eat healthier than like anybody my age, even though, of course, you can debate about, well, it's a diet high in animal fat, and some people say that's not good. Yeah, I know, you can get into these, like, maybe it would be better if I was pescatarian or something, or, had more, right? I don't know. The point is, though, the pure carnivore is probably, I think it's pretty safe to say it's a better diet than most people my age. Just beef and cheese, a lot of it. Like, I'm definitely getting sufficient protein. I'm getting a lot of sufficient nutrients that I would even go as far as to say the majority of people my age just don't achieve. So it is very helpful. And it's not like the high cholesterol or other things don't have their own benefits, even if there is some risk, like, cognitive benefits and things along those lines. So, yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot for me to be grateful for, I think so. And I just can't believe how people are like, yeah, no kidding, I should have a higher paying job. I should. But we're in a system where unemployment for young people is high and going up. And there's no guarantee. So how could I spend all this time taking a class and then get no reward out of it? And people are acting like this is good advice, and what I want to know is how good is the advice really in this day and age? And I get it. I get caught in ruts a lot, and I overthink things, and I get very nervous and stressed about trying new things. And this is stuff that I deal with very often. And yeah, it happens a lot. I can't do it. So when I hear these things, I get stressed, but I'm wondering if that stress, is it warranted? Is it a stress that's warranted? Because it's possible that that's the case. It's possible that it's due to my awareness and comprehension of the system at large. That's what's possible. Because these other people don't know that stuff, so they don't have as many limiting beliefs, I guess, subconsciously. But that's probably due to ignorance. Like, it's not due to that. They're not smarter than me. I think given the current situation, it's like I don't know. That's the bulk of what it comes down to. I'm really noticing a lot of people are being like very weird and impatient this morning, and I'm really not a fan of it. Like I don't even understand why we're acting like this, because I think they even like honked as they passed me and stuff, and that was like the second person that flashed their high beams. And it's literally like they barely even got that much further in front of me. They shouldn't have even been in my lane, because they weren't even taking the same exit that I'm taking. It doesn't even make any sense. Like I don't know. Like I feel like this happens all the time, where it's like, yeah, I mean, I might be slowing you down by a couple seconds, but it's most of the time I'm not really doing anything dramatic even, if that makes sense. Like I'm not being like that dramatically slow, or like, it's just so weird to me, like how I just don't think they're thinking, and they're just like, but yeah, I just noticed it twice today, and I just had to like take note of that. Like what is going on? Anyways, so then here's the other issue too. I think we are so far past this like idea of like resumes and applying for jobs. I mean, give me a break. There should not be any applying for jobs. It just doesn't really make any sense. Here's what I think. I think how the system should work is we should all, and I think I've described this already on a walk switch law, but I'm just going to repeat it because, dude, oh my gosh. He just wasn't getting a move on. I've described it before, but I'm going to re-describe it again. It's like from birth, you're given a Neuralink, and it scans your whole body, your brain mostly, but obviously your physical capabilities as well, like your muscle size, muscle density, grip strength, dexterity, because these are all quantitative values you could cross compare with other humans, and it tells you what you're going to be best at doing in relativity to everybody else. And so there's no freedom. Like I've said a million times before, freedom is stupid. You're told that you would be best at this, and then it probably averages it out with what's most needed. So it takes everybody else's biological data and cross compares and extrapolates it all to average out like, who would be best where. And obviously it wouldn't be perfect, because let's say you have so many people born and they would be like the best at being a doctor, but then you don't need that many doctors. So it kind of tries to average it out. Well, what if one of those people would be really good at a doctor, but they're also really good at a dentist, and there's less people good at a dentist. So even though they'd be better at a doctor than some other people, it would like average it out. So, well, even though, we'd have slightly worse doctors, it's still like a overall better benefit to just have like a better dentist. It would do all this averaging and perfect. So your whole life you would know what you're going to do. You would know what you're best at. And there's no freedom. There's no like aimlessly trying to figure out what you're going to do. And then here's the best part. No application. No risk. Wow, look at that. This guy's just like really... He's like not giving me a chance to go. Like, that's crazy. And then he just merged out anyway. That's so crazy. I can't believe that. He like wasn't letting me merge over, and then he just like merged into the other lane anyway. Like, what was the point of that? Probably wasn't even paying attention. Then you have the usual people rushing around me like, yeah, that's great that you're going to get to work 5 seconds faster. It's like, how old are we? Like, I don't. I mean, honestly, I'm just happy that I'm not too late, because I kind of thought I was going to be like kind of late today, if anything. So we're not gonna make as good time as some of those other days, but we're gonna make pretty okay time. So it's okay. We're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. But yeah, so sorry, to try to finish my point. There's going to be no applying, no applications, no getting ignored, nothing like that. People are just going to be selected properly, and they're going to know where they should be and what they should be doing, and there's not going to be much of a say or stress about it. And yeah, so like all my problems would be solved. Every problem we have in society would be solved with the Neuralink. Every single problem we have now and that we're facing. So you really, you think about these things and you wonder, like, why is nobody else really thinking about them or considering them? It's like insane that, we have all these issues, and then it's really only me who's really like thinking about it or considering it or whatever. It seems kind of crazy that like nobody else is really even thinking about it. I don't know. It's like, what are we doing here, people? It's like such an odd circumstance, really. A very, very odd circumstance. So that's kind of where I'm at. And so, like, am I crazy, or what is really the diagnosis for thinking all this? Like, is it just that I understand too much, and it's like, since most people, like, they don't even think like this at all, that's what the problem is? Because, like, they don't even think of it being a problem or think of it being like an issue? Is that like the whole problem with what I'm going through and everything? Because I guess it's possible that that's like the case. It's just a lot of people, you know, they don't even really conceive of it or something. They just don't conceive of it. And so, like, they'd hear what I'm saying and think, oh, wow, that guy's like a total disaster. What's his problem? But I'm right. Like, I'm right about all these things, that, there's these really strange things that present themselves in the world, and it doesn't even make any sense. Like, what is going on, and why is nobody else talking about these issues? And do people just really not notice them? And I don't know. It's like very very strange. It's very strange things. Just so strange. So yeah, here we are, As usual. I hope I articulated this sort of well. I mean, I know it might not be as good as it could be, but I'm hoping it's turning out all right. But I don't know, man. I just like don't understand. Just don't understand it at all. Like, why do I think like this, and then like nobody else does, and it's it's always just so crazy. Just always such a crazy thing and everything. Yep, and I forgot the thing takes longer. Oh, we're here kind of late. 3 minutes later than that usual time. What can you do? What can you do? Can't really do much. Can't really do too much, can you? Alright, let's get myself situated. Let's get myself situated. Oh my gosh, tired. Oh my gosh, tired. Alright. Well, let's see here. Alright guys, I think it's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So, see you schla.